Hey everyone, P. McGee here with week two of the Clodsire Premier League. I had a strong start in week one, going 5-0 and getting a 1-0 start. So looking to carry it over, hopefully into week two. This time I am joined, however, on the mic by my opponent to talk through the match. So Hamburger, welcome. Thank you for showing up
Hello.
today.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to talk through the matchup. It was an interesting one, I'll say that for certain.
Oh, absolutely. Your team is super scary. A lot of thought went on my end to try to figure that out. I'm sure same on your side, trying to prep this one out. So I'm excited to kind of
Yeah,
talk about it a little bit
definitely.
more. So I'll start by talking through my side of the matchup and what I'm looking at, and then obviously I'm very curious to see what your thoughts are looking at this matchup as well. Uh,
Yes.
so when I'm looking at this matchup, I'm seeing a lot of firepower on your side. The Chiyu scares me. The Ogrepone scares me. The Floette scares me. The Ogrepone scares me because you swept with it in week one. Not because it's dominant in this matchup per se, but I saw what you did with the Trailblaze and a well timed miss from a gunk shot. So it is giving me some pause, more so than it normally would, just in case you're trying to run it back in week two. But the obvious ones
Mm.
of Chiyu and Floette are just going to smash me around. And then you got an Urshifu, which is my second consecutive week of dealing with Urshifu. But you got an Urshifu Rapid Strike. But all of that still there. I like the look of Rain here. Mitigates the Chiyu damage, mitigates the Ogrepone damage, enables some additional firepower so that some of my pieces have better breaking power. So I'm looking at Rain much more strongly this week than I did in week one, which is good for me because I didn't bring it week one, so it's not a guarantee, which was the goal of the team.
Yep.
I like Nihiligo. Looking at my matchup again, it smashes everything besides Ferrothorn pretty well. So I look at Ferrothorn as the defensive piece for me to kind of have to break through. But otherwise, Nihiligo does a lot of damage there. But then Nihiligo has to do a lot on the special defensive side again. You got a Chiyu. Thankfully, no access to Psyshock. I'm sure you looked to see if it had access to
God,
Psy.
yeah, I looked. I really hoped Ford just learned that in like Champions or in
Yep.
ZA or something,
Yep.
but no, no luck.
Yeah.
And I was
So
the second it didn't have, I was like, oh.
even still, it has psychic, so it's not like a free switch in. But certainly, I have a
Yeah,
little better defensive prowess with the Nihiligo to deal with that. Chiyu, same reason, although Ruination is obviously a concern. And
yeah,
then giving me a little bit of protection against some Pecharunt sets. Mostly does well against Noivern, so it looks really good as an AV user again, but it also has a good offensive presence. So trying to do two things at once again with Nihiligo, is probably how I'm looking going into the week. And then my turn one is really, really big in this matchup. I see it being very disastrous. I'm sure you watched my week one replay. You saw that I had a Palafen lead off just to
yes.
enable the hero mode. So that's a really easy thing to call and get punished for. I got punished for it in week one. You've got things that could counter lead really disrupt me. Mega Flow, I could come in turn one and click Moonblast or Psychic and just
Yep.
break me. You could bring a Blastoise that clicks Shell Smash on turn one, and I don't have good answers for that. You could lead Ferrothorn and just put hazards out turn one. So there's a lot of ways I can lose turn one by being predictable, and so I'm trying to keep that in mind as I'm planning my team out. And so, what are you seeing when you're looking at this matchup from your perspective?
So I thought I really only prepped for about 8 months, maybe nine. But
Okay.
I thought you were gonna bring rain. I pretty much thought that was pretty much a given. It's my team, two fires. Even with rapid strike, you want a way to break through Petrant with Palafin.
Mm-hmm.
You need those banded wave crashes in rain really
Yep. Oh,
to do
absolutely.
that. And yeah, so I expected Andor Chaladon was a massive threat into my team, especially, and obviously Electroshock being a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, Stoice would be a pretty good answer. So yeah, I thought for sure Rain was coming here alongside basically your top six, and well, I'm sure you'll get into the team soon.
Yep.
But obviously, I still had to, with the given the nature of your team, still had to prep for some of the lower mons. Doug Trio could easily come, like let's say if I bring a set of Florgists,
Mm-hmm.
just like a choice band or even a life orb, like would chip it a good amount, and obviously can't switch out on it. And Moltres, even if I think it had a pretty bad matchup here, Moltres, but you might bring it as an emergency Ogapon check or an Urshifu Rapid, like just for the love of God, get a burn in like an emergency case. So I still respected those months, despite me thinking the top six would come.
No, that's absolutely fair. They came week one, so it's not like they haven't had a presence, but You're
Oh yeah,
you're right about the matchup overall. Moltres looked really poor as a defensive answer for what it needed to check, and then Doug Trio helped a little bit with the Chi-Yu Mega Floette, but outside of that, it didn't exactly pop off. So,
yeah,
um,
and it could be used as setup fodder for a few things. So completely reasonable why I didn't bring it.
yep. So I'll go through my team quickly, and then yeah, please, we'll go through yours. And yeah, I'm very
Yep.
curious to see what you have to say about some of the EV stuff because I was very very intrigued looking through some of that. Most of the moves made sense, but I was very curious about some of the speed stuff. So we'll get there in just a
Yes, yeah,
minute.
I'll let you know.
So we've been hinting at it. Obviously, Rain is coming this week. It feels very strong. Pelipper feels very strong in this matchup. It's really there to allow my Rain to get out. I got the Damp Rock on it for additional Rain turns. So pretty basic set. U-turn, Roost, Hurricane, Weather Ball. I debated Ice Beam rather than Weather Ball just to give me a little bit more of an option against the potential Noivern. But I didn't think Noivern was likely to hard switch on a Pelipper. And a Noivern with any solid special attack investment was going to blast through a Pelipper in a 1v1. So I just didn't feel like Ice Beam was going to really pop for me the way I was thinking it would. So Weather Ball is just for solid damage and a way to maybe address a late game Chi-Yu that's choice locked into like a fire or even just not an overpowered Dark Pulse. And then really it's there to give me defensive coverage against the Chi-Yu potentially. The Ogrepone especially helps me 1v1 a Ferrothorn. If it doesn't bring the rumored but yet unseen Thunder set I have heard of Ferrothorns bringing for rain matchups, it's there. I've heard rumors of it. I've not run into it yet. So um, we'll get to your pace in a minute, but I am aware of the possibility, so it's something I'm considering there, but I don't think it's likely. And then it helps me with Rhyperior, who I think has reason to come if you're fearing a Regieleki. So I'm keeping Rhyperior in mind, even though I think it has an awful matchup. Rhyperior has
Oh yeah.
some defensive relevance here, and so that could lead to it showing up. I know Ferrothorn will be there. I'm very confident Ferrothorn will be there. So Pelipper just kind of helps give me that basic defensive bulk, but really the goal is Rain. Next up is the Mega Meganium, who is running a little faster this week. It's aiming to speed creep past an uninvested Petrant or an uninvested Blastoise, just to be able to get in front of those for easy Solar Beam or easy Earth Power damage. Otherwise, it's doing pretty basic stuff. Solar Beam, Earth Power, Synthesis, I think those are all pretty self-explanatory. And then I'm opting for Dazzling Gleam here over Weather Ball. My fear is that a Noivern showing up would mean my Mega Meganium has absolutely no way of pressuring that, which concerned me. I think if a Ferrothorn shows up, Earth Power will do fine enough in a 1v1. Gyro Ball damage will sting, but not necessarily break me. And then it can't Leech Seed stall me or anything like that, so I can whittle down a Ferrothorn with Earth Power if I have to, but I needed a way to address the Noivern, and so that was the way it felt best to go. But it does well in front of quite a few things if I've checked them. I know and I've seen already that Urshifu can run Poison Jab, so that's something I have to scout for. There's real possibility of Shukaberry on a Petrant that, again, I have to scout for. But it has some solid opportunities, especially if Rain is up, because then Chi-Yu and Ogrepone aren't really punishing it. So I feel like it can create good opportunities for itself to pressure hard for good damage if I can get in front of a few things. Next up is Palafin, who is basically running back the same set he ran last week. We're going Jolly for a 252 attack and 252 Jolly nature with the Choice Band. I'm opting for max speed investment just in case I get locked into a late game wave crash scenario, so that I at least speed tie the Chi-Yu. And with the the Urshifu already at a 97, it didn't really seem that important to preserve those 16-20 EVs that I would have left after speed creeping the Urshifu. I just felt at that point might as well be in a speed tie situation where it's relevant. And then obviously being in front of the Urshifu is really important. So he's here to click wave crashes end game if we get to that stage with him. Otherwise, he's here to create momentum, force switch outs. Not a lot of things can sit in and take a jet punch. That's from Abandoned Rain. So I can get Chi-Yus and Mega Floettes out pretty easily, Rhyperior's out pretty easily. So I feel pretty good about him in this matchup just from a damage output perspective. But with the presence of Ferrothorn and probably a potential for Rocky helmets. The idea of Rocky helmet Blastoise with the rain dish ability did concern me. I've seen that thing be a real pain to break through, as it just gets the leftovers recovery from the rain dish and then gets the damage output from the Rocky helmet that can turn into a nuisance quickly. So I'm expecting to be chipped down very, very quickly here, just hoping to get some solid damage on the way. And then the close combat's obviously for the Urshifu and the Ferrothorn, opting for no solution for the Noivern, just trying to create momentum in front of those switch-ins if he figures out that I don't have Ice Punch. So next up is the Archaludon, who I am very excited about in this matchup. He really only needs 2 moves to be effective here. Flash Cannon and Aura Sphere do really good output to pretty much everything, but the opportunity for Electroshock is very strong. And so what I'm trying to do is create very safe sub opportunities. I feel there's a couple of them here. If I haven't revealed my item, then I threaten Scarf or something like that. It could force out a Chi-Yu or a Floette that hasn't scouted me yet. But generally speaking, my sub opportunities are going to be in front of Ferrothorn or Rhyperior, maybe a very defensive Blastoise, where I can just get those subs activated and get really threatening with the damage. I have just a little bit of speed investment, just enough to creep past uninvested or minimally invested Pecharunt, although the Shadow Balls are always going to break through anyway, so it doesn't really provide that much protection. But it just gives me ideally a better speed option for later games, so I can be doing good damage output to it and hopefully taking it down before I get hit by its attacks. And then my goal here with the Archaludon is that I am explosive in rain because I can start to get those electroshock boosts, but I don't need rain to be relevant as an attacker. Flash Cannon plus Aura Sphere does enough to chip everything for reasonable damage. Urshifu doesn't really have strong special defense, so I'm putting out solid damage output regardless of whether rain is there or not. But if I can get a sub in rain, that's where I think it really gets scary here with the Archaludon. So I'm really optimistic about his potential to cause problems. And I think Ferrothorn and Rhyperior have strong reason, at least one or both of them have strong reason to show up. So I feel like there will be opportunities because Ferrothorn does not want to run body press in this matchup, I don't think. It doesn't really help with the Pelipper. It doesn't really help with the Mega Meganium. It doesn't really help with the Moltres. So he's not getting great damage output with body press on a lot of things. And then Leech Seed feels pretty relevant. And then I'm expecting 1 or 2 hazard setting options as well. So I feel like he can slot himself out of being able to run body press quickly. So if he doesn't have body press, then I really start to have a lot of opportunities in front of that Pokemon. So I feel really good about the potential here for Archaludon in this matchup, just because I think there's a couple of forced defensive pieces that he can exploit. Next up is the Nihilego, who has a wonkier than usual EV set up for me. 120 HP, 4 special attack, 136 special defense, 248 speed with the Assault Vest, Timid Nature. So any KOs are going to boost the speed stat, which is by design. It has enough speed to just creep past the Mega Floette, just get past the Chi-Yu, which is really, really great for it. In week 1, I was using it as my Mega Frostless answer, but he didn't have enough speed to outspeed the Frostless, which reduced my number of switch-ins because I couldn't immediately force a Frostless out if it wanted to 1v1 and attack first. But in this matchup, I get in front of those 2 Pokemon so I can come in and check those attacks and then be faster afterwards to do really good damage output because it has good stab options for both of those Pokemon. And so I'm running... The moveset I feel is pretty obvious here. Power Gem, Sludge Wave, just really strong power stab options. Grass Knot very specifically for the Rhyperior, but it also helps pretty well with the Blastoise and Urshifu if I needed to outside of rain. But the last move I'm slotting here is Thunder because I expect Ferrothorn to be here. I lack strong options for Ferrothorn, but the potential for paralyzing the Ferrothorn is also very nice for me. So even if I can't remove the Ferrothorn when I'm bringing in the Nihilego, being able to fish for paralysis is still a pretty strong option for me. So that's why I'm opting for it over Thunderbolt, even though it's less reliable if I lose rain control. But then if Ferrothorn goes down, this thing isn't enabled to sweep very well. Pecharunt can withstand to a degree, depending on its investment. But if I'm able to get taking off, or I'm able to get a Thunder Paralysis on the Pecharunt as well, and it doesn't have Poltergeist, then I start to blast through that before long. So this is a Pokemon that is there defensively early game, but if I'm able to remove the Ferrothorn from play, it turns into a real sweet potential Pokemon, which is how it really played out last week. It was defensive for a while to deal with the Mega Frostless, and then as soon as I got that out of play, then the Nihilego was able to pop off and kind of close it out. So aiming for a similar role this week, hoping that won't be exploited, but we shall see. And then the final Pokemon here is the Regieleki, running a Naughty Nature, which is a negative Spadef nature, but a positive attack stat. So 252 attack, 28 special attack, 228 speed. So with those investments, it lets me skirt past Scarf Chi-Yu, which, again, I don't think is likely to show up, but if it does, it gives me a good speed stat there to be in front of that. I am wanting to be really strong on the physical attack side so that I have a way of 1v1ing a healthy or nearly healthy Mega Floette. Supercell Slam can at least be in roll range for most underinvested Mega Floettes and be able to potentially one-hit KO those, especially with the Magnet as my item. So it gives me a good option there. It gives me a solid fishing option against like a Audino. Good God, I couldn't remember its name. Audino, if it were to show up, although I don't think Audino's strong in this matchup, it's too passive. It could still show up, and so just having a really good physical attack option for those is great. But then otherwise being able to Volt Switch and Thunder is really nice for addressing everything else, especially the Pecharunt. And then I'm slotting Rapid Spin here. I am aiming to keep Ferrothorn in check if it shows up and unable to set Stealth Rocks. Stealth Rocks cause me a little bit of nuisance, so I don't want them on my field, but I feel like I'm largely able to minimize passive turns that it can exploit. So as long as I can keep that in check, I think Ferrothorn is not getting rocks out, but if he manages to put the rocks out, then Rapid Spin is there to help me kind of clear those out. And then it needs to address two things in this matchup in order to be effective, most notably the Rhyperior, because I can't do anything to that. And then my damage output on the Ferrothorn is also pretty limited. So I can at least pivot around with the Ferrothorn. That's something that me and Hamburger talked about, the relevance of being able to pivot around a Ferrothorn. But I can't really break it that effectively with the Regieleki. So I need to be able to address both of those things if this wants any sort of sweeping potential. But if those get removed from play, or at least the Ferrothorn chipped down to nothing, then this starts to emerge as a really good closer as well. So he felt really strong in this matchup. I'm going mixed attack because I feel he has some really good defensive pieces with the Mega Floette, at least on the special side with that like 148 special defense, and then the Pecharunt with like the 168 defense stat. So there's two really good defensive pieces I need to kind of push through. So I'm giving myself a mixed option to do that. So that's my team, really aiming to destroy with the high-powered rain. But most of my Pokemon aren't relying on it to be effective. It just gives them that little extra push that I feel like will help them get through a few items that are going to cause defensive concerns. So let's talk about your team now, Hamburger. I'm very curious about it. I think you have some really cool Pokemon. So tell me what you're going for in this matchup.
Right, so yeah, it's a very tough matchup, I will say that for certain. Immediately, as I said earlier, I thought the top six were coming pretty much, but still had to respect Molt, Doug, and to a lesser extent Slitherwing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I built around those top six mons mostly with outs for the others. Immediately, I thought Rapid Strike looked really good here. Its stabs just naturally hit everything, and obviously the rain boost as well.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest problem came from that third move slot of trying to hit either the Mega Meganium or the Pelipper.
Yep.
And as you saw during the game, I decided to go for Mega Meganium, get that poison jab, because I felt like the team struggled to that more than Pelipper, which I could overwhelm with Floette or Noivern later in the game, or even a Rhyperior predict at some point.
Yep. Yep. It feels very
And then I
accurate.
felt my defensive pieces were decent in this, so I could take on Mega Meganium with the combination of Pecharunt, Ferrothorn, Noivern, depending how you choose those four move slots, because you need to pick between your Weather Ball and your Dazzling Gleam, and you have to drop at least one of those two, pretty much. So whichever one you decide to drop can be dealt with by one of the other mons later. Ferrothorn was probably the most important defensive piece in this matchup. I say probably is definitely the most important defensive piece in this matchup. It covers just so much of your team. which is good, obviously, but it means it just has to do so much work. So it was covering because in this matchup, it was covering Palafin, it was covering Nihiligo, it was covering Arch, which was a mistake, but we'll get there. It was covering Mega Meganium, it was covering I think I said Nihiligo already, but
Yep.
it was covering Regieleki as well. So literally all of your mons that came to some extent were checked by Ferrothorn.
No, I
But
mean that was like I said. That was looking in the matchup. That was the most obvious defensive piece that was going to show up because it did so much. And we're looking at the Choppleberry right now. That was certainly an item I thought it might run, just because it gives you an out against my one hit KO option with a Palafin. It gives you an out against a Slitherwing, and that damage output you could turn around and do was really really scary. So being able to withstand those kind of attacks and his pressure back like that was obviously really effective for Ferrothorn. And you can just chip me down. You maybe just run Rocky Helmet and chip me down. So Ferrothorn concerned me, even though I have, I think, no fire moves in this matchup. I was still very, very concerned about the Ferrothorn presence. I just didn't have a really explosive way to deal with that without leaving myself overly exposed somewhere else. So,
yeah, you'd have to bring Molt, but
yeah,
putting Molt into your team was very difficult.
correct. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, other than that, Noivern was a late addition, but I think was a really strong one. Hurricane, obviously, you get perfect accuracy in rain, which
Mm-hmm.
isn't going to be there all the time, but still going to hit really hard. Draco, once again, just going to hit really hard. We'll get to the game in a minute. We'll see what that managed to do, but it's a good revenge option for Palafin, for Chaladon,
Mm-hmm.
for, well, most things on the team, really. It struggles into Nihiligo, but a couple of Dracos and then some pivoting later on, and you can start to chip that down.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Noivern concerned me. I didn't talk about it enough during my team preview, but the ability for Noivern to wall out a Mega Meganium if I'm not slotting for that, its ability to pressure in the rain, especially when we start talking Hurricanes and Dracos, very scary. I have to start guessing the switch in, otherwise I'm getting chunked really, really hard.
Yeah.
It's something else that's wearing down my Nihiligo, which it's not that it can't handle Noivern, it's that it doesn't want to be handling a third Pokemon spamming moves because then it starts to lose its
Yes.
effectiveness for the ones I'm more concerned about with the Mega Floette and the Chi-Yu. So I didn't talk about Noivern enough in preview, but you're obviously showing why it's a really scary Pokemon for me in this matchup because it just adds that extra little element of pressure. And I only have so many safe ways of answering that. And even then, only for a limited time before it starts to just blast right through me.
Yeah. Yeah, so I didn't bring Ogerpon in this matchup. I like Ogerpon Half Flame a lot, but into a rain team with a
Yeah,
Molt,
yeah, I would have been a little
it is
bold.
a it is a tough bring, and with a Nihiligo as well. Which I mean, I can slot Stomping Tantrum, but and an Archaladon, it is hard to cover basically everything. Pelipper in itself is just a really good answer to it. Probably one of the best, just normal answers in the game,
Yep,
really,
yep.
because it's got such good natural fizz def. And Palafin's easy revenge for any kind of setup. So I didn't think that was worth bringing here. Chiyu was on the team for a little bit, but obviously Rain dampens the fire moves, and Nihiligo once again checks. Same with Mega Meganium in Rain, checking it quite well.
Yep.
But and its speed here was just quite rough here because you have to either tie with Palafin or you go like Scarf, and then obviously you can't even outspeed Regieleki.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I
And
was.
obviously you get locked into stuff as well. It's just it was a tough bring. I think I made the right choice going Noivern in the end
I would agree.
over it.
Yeah, I think the concern for me, not from a damage output from the Chi-Yu, was just it spamming Ruination. That was where I was really,
Yes,
really
yeah, that is
fearful.
fair.
Because then my Nihiligo loses half its health on the first switch in, and then I'm still able to take attacks, force it out, but then I get like one more switch in against that or the Floette later, and then I'm out of a Nihiligo. So I didn't think it was going to break me in that sense. And you're right, it never would have swept in this matchup just because of the speed tiers and the priorities that I had. But from a ruining my defensive backbone, I think it could have been really, really problematic for me.
Yeah,
So,
the set I had like temporarily was an AV to help take on Mega Meganium because it has such a high natural speed F
yep,
that if you put a bit of investment into HP, and obviously you don't need much special attack investment, and as you said, Ruination, it can punch holes in a way you wouldn't expect Chi to.
in a rain matchup, absolutely.
Yeah, so that is a consideration. Other notable assets is Blastoise. But I thought Blastoise was it's obviously really good for Palafin and helps
Mm-hmm.
Ferrothorn with the backbone. And in hindsight, maybe should have come over Petra, but it's hard to say that with a Mega Meganium on the team because Petra has just that natural move that's just going to destroy it
Absolutely.
and is slightly faster. So if I EV correctly, I should be able to threaten that.
No, I
But
agree.
onto the EVs. So I thought I'd be very greedy this week because I noticed last week you went 252 on Palafin to tie the base 100.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, okay, so he's definitely going to do that, which means there's no point running any speed on Urshifu. There's Chi didn't end up coming, but I know I'd have to go all or nothing on that. And then Floette, you'd assume I'd speed creep you.
Yes.
So what I did with the EVs there is I went, as you can see, extremely physically bulky, expecting you to obviously not risk the fact that I'll be faster, because obviously why wouldn't he be faster?
Yep.
Uh, so you just click Jet Punch instead of Wave Crash. And despite going a modest nature, I kept my special attack low enough that any calcs wouldn't reveal me as modest.
Oh.
Yeah, so if you tried to calc it, you'd be like, oh, probably max speed because it's not doing enough damage.
That is
To
clever. I would not have caught
Yeah,
that. No, that like I said, this Mega Floette set is just wild to me. You're entirely right on the where it comes into play. I'm gonna click Jet Punch in front of that if it ever comes to that opportunity. I'm never gonna Wave Crash,
yeah.
and
So
I'm not.
that was my thought with that. And obviously, it can't outcreep Nihilego, so I thought may as well put as much as I can into that bulk
No,
and deal with the priority and the potential Doug revenging, the potential Aleki revenging.
it's funny to me looking at this though how little regard you gave towards Obstagoon. You just didn't even
Oh
think he
yeah,
was
no.
coming to this matchup because he would have actually done pretty well against some of these
Oh
speed
yeah, yeah.
twos.
I did think about Obstagoon's pretty damaging here, but I was like, probably not going to bring it.
No, and you
Probably stuck with those top six, probably with Molt.
and I respect when
But yeah,
coaches do that because it's a hard thing to commit to saying this bond is not going to show up and I'm going to plan accordingly. And if it does show up, I'm in a really bad place. But that's part of prep is just making that commitment on some
yeah, and
Pokemon not showing
obviously
up.
you don't know that I haven't prepped for it as well.
Correct.
So if my Floette comes out in front of it, I don't think any time you're gonna stay in there unless you're in a
No.
desperation spot.
Correct. Absolutely. So I think you would have been able to take advantage of that pretty much all game anyway without me even attempting to scout for that because why would
Yep.
I? So
Yeah.
I a lot of respect there for the spreads on those EVs because I would have assumed near or full speed investments on these Pokemon and I would have been wrong and that
Yeah.
bulk is relevant and we'll talk about that later obviously.
Yeah. Of Urshifu, the speed tier is +1 to outspeed Dougie. Obviously, you're never gonna get enough speed to outspeed an Aleki
Mm-hmm.
at +1 because it's probably gonna creep either Ogerpon +1. I can't remember if that can outspeed an Aleki. I think it can, or a Chi-Yu +1, which it can definitely outspeed. So there's no point trying to creep any form of Aleki.
No, that makes sense. Was
But
Jet ever on your consideration? Like Aqua Jet?
uh, on Urshifu,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
It probably should have been respecting Doug like that, but I positioned Urshifu here as an end game, or maybe not solely end game, but it was going to be my win con basically
No, that makes
because it's got
sense.
enough Spadef that it can live a grass knot from a 252 what you call it Nihilego.
Oh.
So
Oh.
given yours was no special attack, it probably lived a Thunder from max HP.
It did. I actually looked at that calc. I think I capped out
Yeah.
at
So
like
if I got a
87%.
Trailblaze up with a Lecky down, or even if I managed to get two somehow, then that would have been helpful. But yeah, Aleki staying alive made that difficult. So you positioned that well to keep that in.
Yeah. Like I said, the Urshifu Rapid Strike is very scary for me. Its 4 move slot syndrome is really real because it needs
Definitely.
stab, it wants poison, it wants priority, it wants thunder punch, it wants maybe like you have it here some kind of boosting ability, whether that's attack or
Yep.
speed, to try to close out games. So I knew there was limitations to how much it could do, but figuring out what were my best defensive pieces, that's a real problem in the matchup. Just trying to
Yeah, seeing you go make Meganium early, I was just like, probably scouting here, but on the off chance.
gotta fish, see what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like
But
I
yeah,
said,
I thought I don't really have a better way to hit the Pelipper anyway
mhm.
than Poison Jab. So 30% poison isn't bad, and clicking if I had U-turn there, I probably would have clicked it.
Yeah, and
But
that's another move too. I thought you could potentially have as U-turn just for controlling
yeah,
momentum in the game
definitely.
flow.
Like I definitely could have been U-turn over Trailblazer and might have been better off for it, to be honest. But
No, I
I'd
mean,
probably then put Thunder Punch over Poison Jab because U-turn's a decent way to hit Mega Beginning.
yep, and get around
But
and
hey, hindsight's 2020.
yeah, no, I mean, like I said, this team, Urshifu specifically, is just really dangerous for me to figure out what it's doing. I got to scout items, I got to scout moves, I got to get a sense of what's going on here, and so doing that safely without just getting my team entirely chunked down to little HP is a real challenge. And so, regardless of the moves you bring, I got to figure them out because I was looking at this for my
Yep.
team. It's got like 6 Pokemon with quad weaknesses on my team, and so
Mm.
I can't take those unexpected pocket super effective moves by these Pokemon because they start to just blast through me. So
Yeah, yeah.
I got to figure out who's carrying the poison moves. I got to figure out who's carrying the ground moves. I got to figure out who's carrying the electric moves for Pelipper. So it's a challenge every week, and you were certainly fishing around for that a little bit early on, and we can talk about that in just a
Yeah,
second.
definitely.
Anything else with your team you want to talk about? What you were setting up
Uh,
for?
yeah, mostly it was that Urshifu endgame. Whatchamacallit? Mega Flow Out was just going to punch holes every time a mesh came in
Mm-hmm.
and get that Nihilego chipped, which was going to be very important for breaking it.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
obviously, I have Bat and Pass, which is my favorite part about Floette, is you can just get right on out of there and go back into what you want to be on there, which is either be a Rhyperior because it can take a Grass Knot from full, or a Ferrothorn just to get rocks up in front of it, or
Yep.
Leech, or even Power Whip, depending on what wants to come in.
No, that makes sense. And what was I gonna
But yeah,
say?
ultimately, despite knowing exactly what Nihilego set was going to come, I thought with a bit more special attack, it still became a lot of a problem during the game, which shows how well the rest of your team was to support it and the Chaladon,
Oh
which
yeah.
I think is the one bit of prep I've really missed is the sub on our Chaladon, which I've mentioned to you.
Yep. Yeah.
But
Uh,
my answer for that was go Pharaoh or go Ripe.
and just pressure hard
Uh,
with the stab option or the leech seed option.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So missing the fact that substitute was good bring here made Ferroth you get a free turn on Ferrothorn, which allowed you to then do an Electro Shot, which gave you the +1 needed to break through my Rhyperior
Mm-hmm.
and get the roll on Mega Floette, which was also a missing prep that I didn't put that little extra bit in HP or Spadef that I needed
Yep.
to
Yep.
turn that +1 from a roll in my favor to just obviously no roll. But stuff like that is hard to catch without extensive mocks, and you don't get a million mocks. I didn't do any mocks this week,
No,
but
I haven't either. I used to do them all the
yeah,
time, and then I find them to be of limited value, especially regular season, because you don't know how well coaches are taking their prep seriously, and so you may have.
yeah, that's true. I think up in Clodsire, everyone's
Oh yeah, that's what I found with this
taking it
league.
pretty serious.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
it's much more consistent up here, but I've come and I think this is your first season in Clodsire, correct? You were,
it is.
yeah.
Yes.
I was looking through some of the old record stuff. You were hanging out in Quagsire for a while. I had a really strong season last year, and then moved your way up. And
Yeah, I had what happened? I had a decent. I started off really strong in Quag, lost in playoffs.
mhm.
Had a really weak start to a season. I went 0-5, climbed it back to 4-5,
I
but
did
missed
see that one
playoffs.
actually. I was looking at the records on that. I was like, wow,
Yeah,
he.
that was an insane season. That one.
um,
Yeah, and then because of that season, I lost a bet, which means I had to run Mega Camel, so I went full Mega Camel Trick Room,
oh, I like Mega Camel.
and I did miss playoffs, but I got hacked probably 4 of those weeks.
Jeez.
And the opponents willingly admitted, yeah, that was a brutal season. That one, every week there was just something.
Oh, jeez.
Uh, But yeah, I'm happy. And then after that, I was like, okay, I'm done messing around and playing, so time to promote. So
Well done. You got here. You
locked in,
start.
as you could say.
You're coming into this matchup with a 1-0 record, really strong sweep. So obviously,
Yeah, we got a bit lucky last week. It would have been an extremely close end game, no matter what. But I'm
yeah.
happy with the result from week one, and I'm happy with the result this week as well. To be honest,
Oh yeah, yeah. We can
as
get
we'll get into.
yeah we can get into the match and kind of look through that a little bit. So
Yep.
let me switch over to that, and we can. Sorry, we can talk about the match a little bit. Can you see? Okay, I'm just gonna switch to dark mode.
Yes. Yeah. All good.
All right. So talking about the matchup itself, we've already talked about the Pokemon that we were bringing, so there's no like surprises for us at this point talking about it. But back from when the match happened, kind of looking at team preview and me getting into this matchup, I was of course surprised to see no Chiyu. I was
Yep.
a little bit surprised to see no Blastoise. Not shocked. I thought Blastoise had the potential to be overly passive, and that could be its own problem.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that was one thing I forgot to mention. Blastoise struggle. I did consider Shell Smash, but it just struggled to get through Palafin,
Yep,
however
absolutely.
you sliced it. So
Yeah, that was always going to
it's
be an
getting
issue.
tougher.
So it made sense why it wasn't there in the end. But from my perspective, when I'm looking at team preview, I'm saying, oh, he has gone more defensive than I was expecting in this matchup, which to me
Yes, yeah,
feels like a net positive because if I can break through a couple of those things, once the defense starts to get cracks in it and you break through one or two pieces, then it can really crumble. And so I feel good about my potential to break through one or two things and then open up this matchup a lot for me because I really feel like I only have to withstand the pressure of the Urshifu and the Floette, and I feel like I can do that okay. The Noivern's there, and I'm certainly aware of it, but I do think Nihilego, now that it doesn't have to deal with Chi-Yu, it can deal with the Noivern relatively okay
yes,
and be
yeah. That's
okay.
true.
I just got to watch out for anything switcheroo shenanigans that I may be trying to do. So that's, and we'll talk about that with turn one and why I don't just immediately chuck out the Nihilego. But I'm aware that it could be doing that, and I don't want to get my Nihilego crippled on turn one. So I feel good about my offensive presence in this matchup and my ability with my limited defense to withstand some of the things you're doing if I scout appropriately. So, and you've already said this, you expect my top six. You're seeing my exact top six. There's no changes there whatsoever, no surprises, which I'm sure was
Yep.
a relief for you as well because you prepped exactly right for those.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, I would have liked to see I don't know, Slitherwing because he
Yeah.
wasn't very good here, but
Yeah, I can
yeah,
understand
I
that.
basically looked at that and was like, okay, yeah, got it right, which it was a relief in some sense and dreading in another.
Yeah, you're like, well, these are the obvious best six, and he's bringing them, so I need to deal with the obvious problems they bring to this matchup for me. So I see how that cuts both ways. You knew exactly what was coming. That doesn't make it a better feeling when they show up.
Correct.
So I'm going to talk about quickly my way I'm going to lead this matchup. Actually, I'll play turn one really quickly, and we can talk about the
Yeah, yeah.
leadoffs here. So you lead Neuvern, and then I'm going to put out the Regieleki. So in this matchup, I know Regieleki is answered defensively right now. That is not lost on me. I don't expect free turns with Regieleki. You got a really good Rhyperior, you got a really good Ferrothorn. I'm just trying to counter lead so that you can't explode on offense on turn one. That's my fear, is that you lead Floette, and if I lead Palafin, then I'm having to have something eat damage that I don't want to eat damage on turn one, or you lead
Yep.
Urshifu, and again, you get to do something with Urshifu on turn one, and I have to scout around and guess that. So Regieleki, I am confident is not going to do anything on turn one. It's not lost on me. I just want to make sure I can try to force a defensive switch out here, and then that way I can get something else in safely. So I'm always planning to hard switch after I lead the Regieleki. The Noivern catches me as by surprise. I don't think it's going to be a Scarf Noivern, but I'm also not going to chance it either way. So you bring the Noivern. Tell me about the leadoff thought process with Noivern.
So yeah, I did sort of expect the Regielede or Palafin
Okay.
were my two main considerations with potential for a Pelipper because it's nice to get rain up. But
Yeah, yeah,
I thought you wouldn't want that offense to get going, as you just said. So I nearly led Rhyperia in the hard call
yeah.
of
Ooh,
like you're
ooh.
probably leading Aleki. But I was like, no, I can't. I can't. It loses to the other five
Yeah.
Pokemon.
I mean, that's really the
So I
struggle with
needed.
Rhyperior here is it does so well against the Regieleki, but anything else, it's having a miserable time trying to
Well, yeah,
pressure.
other four others are trying to stay in an EQ or
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
something
that's
for it.
fair. And with that assault vest, you're
Yeah,
chunking pretty well. You can eat those hits.
yeah. So I thought probably shouldn't go the hardcore
Yeah, yeah,
lead.
yeah.
Go the more neutral, probably pivot or just chunk something because you can't obviously if you don't lead Mega Meganium, you can't Mega turn one, which
Yep.
means Draco hits your entire team neutrally.
Yep.
So I get a lot of intel or some nice chip on basically anything. I
App.
get intel on the EVs on your Meganium if you decide to go into that.
Mm-hmm.
I get chip on Nihilego turn one, which is extremely
Oh
important.
yeah.
I mean, I didn't consider any other switch at this point, unless you are like hard AV or Chaladon, in which case I get a bunch of chip on that as well. So I
Yep.
thought lead Noiva and Khalid Draco is pretty safe.
No, I mean
Yeah,
it's a great lead here. I really did
I,
not
I
consider
live
it.
I live a T-Bolt from the Magnet because obviously Frisk,
Yep.
great draft ability. And I don't mind taking the Volt switch chip because Neuven is kind of just going to die to anything that really stays in on it,
Yes. Yeah. It's here to just
more or less.
chunk
I
out
can use it to
Dracos.
pivot on Mega Meganium once. I can use it to pivot on Pelipper once. I can use it for an Aleki Vault once, but
No,
to keep momentum up on the turn, I don't mind just leaving it in and seeing what happens.
no,
Because obviously you have to fear stuff as
yeah,
well.
it's a great bleed. I mean, really, it is. It does so much for you. It gives you information with the Frisk. It gives you pressure with the Draco. It's not hypercritical to your win condition. So if anything goes horribly wrong, it's not the end of the world. So it just
Yeah,
is a
crit
really
me with the three
solid.
bottle weather.
Yeah, it's a really solid lead off here, and I'm really scared of it. So I think you made a good call. So playing into that, I'm going to hard switch here, which was always my plan. I'm going into Mega Meganium because I thought you would go Rhyperior. You don't.
Yep.
You go for the Draco, which makes sense. And at least with that damage output, I've learned your specs,
Yes,
which is relevant for
specs.
me. And because of Mega Soul with the synthesis, it's not going to come out for the worst for my Meganium. I'm going to get back to like
No, no.
90%. But
It's mostly for information. This, which is a good switch by
yeah,
you. It's the least you could have given up.
yes, yeah. But I'm certainly not thrilled about running into specs here because I'm realizing, oh wow, Draco is dangerous. Hurricane is dangerous.
Yep.
Switcheroo could exist and really cripple me if I'm not careful
Yeah,
with the
definitely.
Nihilego. So I got to be really cautious about this Noivern, which is why I went Meganium turn one in case you were trying to force out or bait out a Nihilego and Switcheroo it. At least I
Yep.
wouldn't get screwed over there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But this highlights already one of the struggles of my team early on is that my team is such a slow start team. I have to get range set with a Pelipper. I have to get a Palafin turned for the ability
Yeah,
activation.
definitely.
I got to get Meganium in once to Mega Evolve so that I can actually be a Dragon immunity and have a proper fairy. And so I have to do all of those things early. And so it's a lot of pivoting around and switching around early just to try to kind of set all that up. And so thankfully I'm not getting hyper punished by it here. I'm going to get my health back up.
Yeah, in hindsight, U-turn probably would have been good because I could have catch your Meganium from Mega
Yep.
Evolving by
Yep.
by going into another Pokemon, like even Floette
No, I
or
think
something.
U-turn would have been a good call
Or
here.
like,
Draco makes sense though. In your specs, you want to just click the nuke
yeah,
button. I get it.
you want to clear them damage button.
I'm not going to stand on Petrunt. Obviously, I don't know what its speed investment is. I need to be careful of that. You parting shot, which is great for momentum, controls the flow of the game. Gets in the Urshifu here, which is a major problem for me. I don't think you're likely to click Poison Jab in front of an Archaludon, so I'm gonna hard switch Meganium here. I think that's too big of a gamble for you. I thought you might click T Punch, maybe
Yep.
thinking Pelipper is gonna come out, so I'm gonna go Meganium first. That feels safe to scout. You click Close Combat, no Life Orb damage happens, so I don't know what your item is. I'm gonna hard switch again to Pelipper, expecting maybe a Poison Jab on that turn. You have it,
Yep.
so I got to switch out again. And then now I know you're not going to close combat a Pelipper. That would be very bold. You might still have T Punch though, and so I'm going to have to once again respect the
Yeah.
scouting what that is, and I'm going to go hard Arch, which worked out great here. I get accidentally the perfect matchup for it.
Yes, you do, because this is I wouldn't switch into Ferrothorn to deal with Arch, but if Ferrothorn is in front of Arch, I'm going to click Leech, so
Yep.
this is very much ideal situation for you.
Yeah, I haven't had to reveal my item on Arch yet either, so you
Yeah,
don't know.
that was big as well, because the second I learn you're not AV, I start thinking more, and yep.
Yeah, so it gives me a really great scenario here, just kind of pivoting around until I scouted what was going on. And so now you're in a tough spot because you click Leech Seed expecting me to not sub.
Yeah,
And
well, this is really, I think my biggest misplay of the game is not immediately going to my answer for a Chaladon, which is this Rhyperior.
yep. And so I'll get my free Electro Shot boost. Obviously, you're immune, so you don't care. But getting
Yeah,
that
but
+1
the
special
poison
attack.
still,
Um,
just
what was I going to say? I get a Flash Cannon in here, which is going to chunk it really hard. You Earthquake.
yeah, and the worst thing is because of Aleki, I can't really let Rhyperior go here, which means I need to make an aggressive call.
Yep, yep. And then something that gives me some. There's a flip side to the Noivern leadoff is that it revealed Frisk, which means it is not Infiltrator, which is really,
Yes.
really big for me because it means I can sub freely again. I know you have to switch out with Rhyperior here. I don't know what the switch out is yet. So I can sub very freely knowing I'm not going to get punished for that. So Floette comes in here, and I'm going to Flash Cannon in front of it. You're obviously going to be faster than me, and you're going to break sub because, of course. This roll, and we talked about it. Let me make it right. I had like a 37% chance of one hit KO in this Floette.
37.5, I believe
Yeah,
it was.
that
Which
sounds right.
Is on me for not putting most def in.
But like,
I'll-
I would never have expected it was even in roll range. I thought +1 with a 252 special attack, modest Archaludon clicking Flash Cannon. There's no way on earth this Floette survives. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned it because it didn't to me, the turn didn't feel like anything weird there. It felt like you were
Oh
sacking.
yeah, yeah.
But you were expecting a favorable roll that you did not get,
Yes.
which obviously has a huge impact on the rest of how this game plays out because Floette is gone, which means my Nihiligo has very little to do on the special defensive
Yeah,
side now.
very much so. It's
So
hard to bait that out
yeah,
for later.
so,
It's hard to chip it down with psychic
yep.
or yeah.
Yeah, so I mean
Like
that opens up my game a lot here, which is really big. It takes away one of your primary win con pieces, or at least pressure pieces that starts to blast through me. So this is a really favorable turn that went in my favor, and sometimes that's just Mons.
it is months.
So you're gonna come in with the Noivern. I know your specs. I know you have Draco. I obviously have to leave. I'm going to go to Heligo now. You try to call the Meganium switch in, obviously, with the Hurricane. I
Yep.
don't go that way. I felt okay with the Heligo there just because I felt that was a possibility. Ferrothorn
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
in,
makes good sense.
which I expected Ferrothorn to come in. You've clicked Hurricane. Rain is gone. You're in front of a Nihiligo with an AV. You have to switch out your
Yep.
Noivern. So I'm going to hard call again with Archaludon. I
Yeah, at this
don't.
point, I'm feeling really rough. I
Yeah.
know I need to make aggressive call after aggressive call here.
Which is, yeah, fair. I mean, it makes sense. I don't go hard on the sub here. I figure you're going to break it down pretty quickly. I'm not going to get the electroshock because I don't have rain. So I just want to get chunk and then keep our Chalana healthy for later in case I need to try to take a close combat and earthquake. I feel like I have a better chance of surviving those. So I don't
Yep.
sub. I feel pretty confident at this point you don't have Thunder Punch and Urshifu.
Yeah, I go Surgeon Strikes here,
Yep.
expecting Pelipper to come in.
Yep.
This is my best Pelipper. Way
Which
to hit.
I get. So Pelipper felt good here. I felt like Urshifu doesn't have the coverage move it needs for it. So I can get in front of that, get a U-turn here because at this point in the game, I'm feeling like I have the one mon advantage. I can play the trade-offs if I need to.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
I feel like a good opportunity for Palafin turn. You call that really well. I want to give you credit for that. You know I'm not going to click flip turn with my Palafin here. Or maybe I'm Scarf and click Ice Punch. Maybe. Either way, Ferrothorn is
Those
a
were the
great...
two things I was trying to catch. Bang on.
Yep. And so you called that really well with the Ferrothorn lead in here because I didn't really leave many opportunities in the beginning of the game for Ferrothorn to come in and get Stealth Rocks. This is that opportunity. I can't sit in with Nihiligo. I can't do any damage, so I have to run away and
You're
hard
not
switch
staying
out.
in and letting this get chipped.
Nope.
So.
And so I don't know if you have I don't know what your attacking moves yet. You haven't shown it. You've only clicked, what is it? Leech Seed and Stealth Rock. So I don't send in Nihiligo because I'm afraid you might have Gyro Ball. I'm afraid you might have Knockoff. I don't want to take those
I
chunks.
Gyro Ball for a while, so
Yeah.
that's completely fair.
So you do the Leech Seed, which is, good call. I wasn't expecting Protect. That's a good bring on your part. So just a really good way to stall out, get Ferrothorn healthy and staying healthy throughout the game.
Yep, that was the idea. Stall out the rain,
Yep.
keep things from getting momentum like just then.
And so I'm going to do a heal there, and then I'm going to hard switch just to
Yep.
expecting a Protect again. I go Regieleki. I'm going to try to get a spin in. I don't feel Regieleki is the most critical for my end game either. So if I take an unnecessary hit, it's not the end of the world for me, but I really want to deal with these rocks because I feel like that is going to be a problem for Chip.
No, definitely getting rid of rocks is good here for you.
So I go for the spin. Thankfully, you don't call that with Petron. That would have been tragic. But
I would have then needed to call the next turn again. It would have been. I wouldn't have gained much from it really.
yeah, that's fair. So you go Stone Edge, which unfortunately misses. I know you're going to switch out because there's no way Rhyperior is letting itself be sacked here. So I'm going to go for Earth Power Fish on the...
Probably kills Rhyperior anyway.
Yeah. So I get decent chunk. I'm willing to sack Meganium at this stage of the game because...
Yeah, I figured you would, but unfortunately I did not speed creep enough on Petron. I put 16 expecting you to creep like an 8 or 12, but nope, you creeped
a little further.
24 or something like that?
Something like that.
Fair play to you. You did enough creeping.
I did the eyeball test. It felt like enough creep, so I'm happy that worked out. But I feel like, and I talked about this when I talked about my team, like when I did my original draft and I talked about this team, I feel like it plays really well from a one-mon advantage because I can start playing that sack game because I have so many power hitters that I can just trade off KOs mid to late game and just come out with a 1-0, 2-0 victory and be fine with that. And so I have a mon advantage already. I feel like I can take Petrunt to the point of no return with an Earth Power here. So I do that. Because I didn't want to get caught in not doing that, and you click Parting Shot again, and me playing on the back foot. So this is me trying to stay on offense. So you sack Petrunt because 17 HP is pretty useless, which I understand. You don't want to let Palafin take
Yeah, there's
advantage
an
of
argument
momentum.
for going Pharaoh there to keep you from locking CC with band, but
Yeah, but
yeah,
then you
it's
open
tough.
up Archelon coming in and clicking sub, so
Yeah,
it kind
yeah,
of goes both ways there, and I understand that. So Palathan comes in, you click Stone Edge again, you're paid back for
and
missing the
get much
first
closer.
time, so you get the valuable crit. I click Close Combat. I don't think Noivern's the likely switch in. Even if it is the switch
Yep,
in,
that's
I can
fair.
chunk it and get some decent damage on it. Ferrothorn has to eat the Close Combat, uses the Choppleberry. Again, I'm fine spamming Close Combat. You might still go the Noivern, but I can deal with that damage.
Yep, that's fine for you.
And so again, I'm just playing into that. Keep the one mod advantage. Feel good about that. I sent Pelipper in here just because at this stage, Pelipper just needs to set the rain for me one more time, and I feel like I can win with Nihiligo because Nihiligo
It was
has
a good call by
Thunder.
you on this turn to not go Nihiligo.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I didn't need to even
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
because if I lose Pelipper, I come in and you are a Noivern that has clicked Draco or Hurricane, and I can click Power Gem fine on that. I have Grass Knot, I have Thunder. All I need to do is make sure my
Yes,
Nihiligo
you
stays
pretty much
bulky.
won by this point.
So it's just me trying not to be stupid and make a dumb mistake. So I get the free
Yeah.
U-turn, and that gets my Nihiligo in. I'm pretty confident, even with an AV, even with special defense investment, a Grass Knot is going to take care of business at this
At
stage.
33, at 33,
That quad weakness and that big fat Pokemon is going to do the max damage output there. I get the speed boost, which I know will put me in front of Noivern. I should click Thunder here. I thought Power Gem would clean it up and KO it. It doesn't. Thunder would have been a safer call just in case you had Switcheroo and you hadn't brought it out yet, so that I'm not locked into a Power Gem on the Noivern, and then you get the Urshifu potential setup in front of me because I'm stuck on Power Gem.
yeah, that's fair.
So I didn't make that call. Thankfully, it didn't play out that way, but I'm realizing in hindsight, Thunder would have been safer. My only fear here is Aqua Jet, but even if you are Aqua Jet, you don't really have any answers for the Regieleki or the Pelipper, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So Nihiligo does what it did last week. It kind of comes in after its steel type check has been addressed, and it's just able to kind of start steamrolling. So really happy on my end how that played out. I'm not gonna discount how important that Floette turn was, though. Really, really big win for me on that Floette turn where I got the roll.
Yeah, definitely.
So I thought it was a great matchup. I thought your team was really, really great. I loved the EVs you had. I loved the thought process behind them. I respect how hard you committed to what you expected to come, and you were exactly right with all of
Yeah,
that.
this is tend to be how I build teams. Is I go quite all or nothing, which
Mm-hmm.
in this league especially leads to my results being quite skewed. I either do very well or I do quite
Yeah,
poorly.
but
But
you weren't.
in other leagues, I usually bring it to very close games, which is
Yeah,
interesting.
but you weren't wrong, and that's the thing I really want to highlight. You weren't wrong
Yeah,
on the hard commit. It just the team got that roll early on, and then I got a couple of helpful turns in front of the Ferrothorn, which just kind of broke things
yeah,
open.
definitely.
But you were entirely right on your prep, and I want to commend you on that because a lot of coaches just do generic prep. They don't hard lock themselves into a situation in case they're wrong, and I respect that you did that because you were so confident and you were rightly rewarded for that confidence with the exact six showing up. So
Yeah, I also felt like in this matchup, if you brought these 6 months, I needed every out I could get to them to have a chance.
no,
So
and it
I
made
didn't have
sense.
much wiggle room to prep for those other months.
No, and I
So it's worth going all in
and I
to
respect
give you a
that.
better chance.
And you obviously had answers for everything. It's just like I said, with when I saw team preview, I saw a very defensive team, and so if I could start to break through that a little bit, then I felt
No,
like
yeah,
the
definitely.
steamroll
You
starts
weren't
to
wrong.
happen because you only have so many ways to get back on the offense and start to counter pressure me. So I felt good with how that played out. I was really concerned I was just going to get blown up by a highly explosive Shell Smash Blastoise turn one with a Ruination Chi-Yu in the back and max attack or special attack Floette and
Yeah,
maybe a Scarf
once
Urshifu.
you build your team, you always think about
Yeah.
what the absolute worst that your opponent can bring are,
Yep.
and you're like, oh, and you start being all scared for them. But then you remember your opponent hasn't seen your team; they're not going to know the
Exactly.
intricacies of exactly what you're
Exactly.
missing.
Exactly. So it was a great match. I know that it looked a little skewed on the results in the end. I had a 4-0 win, but like it really came down to a couple of mid-game turns and deciding how that played
Yeah,
out. So I think this could have
you
been a
were in
much closer.
control for a majority, especially towards the end. But
Yeah.
doesn't mean it wasn't a close game,
No.
just prep wise or even game wise.
No, I think like if you manage to slot Thunder Punch on Urshifu or
Yeah.
you have like
Poison Jad on Ripe would have helped a lot in the
yeah.
end game as well,
Yeah. So then there's
which is something I was supposed to change but didn't. So that was
exactly.
on me.
Or if you had like Poltergeist on the Petra that starts to scare me. So
Yes.
I feel like there was a couple, like one or two moves away, and my team doesn't have the answers I was abusing in this game, and then it just blows open for me, and I can't do what I want to do. So I don't want to rematch you because I used so much to get past you in this one that like I feel like, and we talk about all the ways which I didn't have answers for, and so I'm just kind of like fishing or feeding out information for a potential rematch that scares me. And so hopefully this is our
Yeah,
only
I've
interaction
given
this
you
season.
A lot of my greed information. So
Yeah. So I'm hoping this
be
is
a
our.
very different game when you come back.
I may have to abandon Rain altogether and try something entirely different, but we'll
Ooh, maybe.
we'll see. I'm hoping that we don't have to come to that. I feel good with how this played out. Maybe leave it
Yeah.
there for the season. We'll run into each other next season with a whole different team or
Yeah.
something. But this was great talking with you, man. I really appreciate your commentary. You had a lot of great insight on your team, a lot of great insight in the matchup, and how to counter prep for my team that I wasn't necessarily considering coming into this. And now I have to start thinking about going forward. So
Yeah, no, watching your week 1 video helped me prep as well because it made me get into the mind of how you think,
yes, yeah. That's always the
which is
negative.
always helpful.
It's a double-edged sword there. I like to talk about it. I like to talk about the matchups, but
Oh,
then
yeah.
talking about them opens up the opportunity to be counter prepped for, and certainly
You
you
didn't
did
give me
that.
that much. I wouldn't worry too much.
All right. Well, if you have any final thoughts, now's the time. Otherwise, I think we can close this out for this one.
No, I think I've said everything I want to say. Thank you for
Yep.
having me. I'm happy to be on here. It was always an enjoyable experience to do these sort of things.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Hamburger, for joining today. I'm glad we could figure out the scheduling. We have very different time zones, if you couldn't tell from our
Yes.
voices. So we managed to find the time, and I'm glad we did because I think this was very insightful. So thank you so much. This is my week 2 matchup. I proved a 2-0 +9. Looking forward to week 3, and I think I have a pre-commit already for joining on the mic. So hopefully keeping that going for the rest of the season, or at least with some more folks. So stay tuned, everyone. Thank you.